Yes, everybody, how are we all doing? It's Ryan here from Rockstars. Hope you're all doing well today. I'm very, very excited to say that I'm sat down with Scottish soul star Brooke Combe. How are you doing?
Good, thank you, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's always awkward asking how you're doing because I've just asked you that 5 minutes ago before we press the record button.
It's one of those action, let's go.
Yeah. Firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on the podcast. When I got asked to do this the other day, I was absolutely buzzing. I'm such a big fan of you and your work and what you're doing at the moment. So thank you very much for coming on.
It's all good. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Let's dive straight into, I reckon, to the debut album. Comes out on January the 31st, Dancing at the Edge of the World, which is going to be accompanied by a big headline tour in April. You've got Liverpool, Norwich, Birmingham, London, Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, Glasgow, Barrowlands. Massive gig, that one. How excited are you, first of all, to be going on this big first album adventure?
Oh my God, I'm absolutely buzzing. I think this is sort of the tour I've been waiting on. Obviously, you've got to do all the tours leading up to like this point, and obviously due to the fact that I'd only started performing live in I think 2020. Wait, were we still in lockdown in 2020?
Maybe? I don't know.
Whenever I did that Miles Kane tour, it was sort of like my
Mm,
first run of gigs. So I feel like all of that is necessary, obviously, because I had no like stage presence
of
or
course.
confidence. But I'm absolutely, honestly, over the moon. I lose sleep thinking about this tour. So it better.
I was gonna say nice that you've touched on it, like all the like steps on the ladder on the way up, because I've seen you support like Blossoms, Cortinas, seen you on so many festivals in like mid-afternoon slots and stuff like that, and it's been amazing to see you just sort of like do it in the way I see it. It should be. Do you know what I mean? Like you should have to put all this groundwork in before you start to reap the rewards. So, and you could definitely tell, like you say, I would have never guessed that you didn't have a stage presence back then. By the way, either.
I'm good
So.
at hiding things.
So yeah, with the new album, is there anything on the new album that you're really excited to get into the set for the album tour?
Um, like tune wise,
Yeah,
yeah.
tune wise, yeah, yeah.
To be honest, them all there's probably only one I don't want.
Oh,
On it, I love the album a bit. Honestly, of course I do, and I'm proud. And to be honest, like for it being a debut album, I honestly couldn't have asked for anything more.
mm,
We were really, really under a time crunch and obviously a money crunch. So we done the album. I honestly want to say in like 10 days.
that's
Something mad. Like
crazy.
we done it over 2 weeks, but like so maybe 15 days, but it was only Monday to Friday type of thing.
Right.
But yeah, there's just one song. If I could have done it all differently, I probably would have done that one song a little bit differently. But I'm not going to say what it is.
No one will guess. No one will guess. You'll have to like try put a poll up on your Instagram, be like, "What song am I talking
Yeah,
about?"
exactly.
And see if anybody could like sort of suss you out a little bit. So like doing the album in such a quick time, that is like amazing. Like you must be so proud of that anyway. Like being able to get like cracking under the time schedule and that. Was any of that to do with partner from the major label at all, or was that just a complete like thing that you just had to do yourself? Or
Um, Obviously, it's a bit different when you're minted and have loads of money to,
yeah,
you know what I mean, or to say to somebody like, "I want 5 weeks of your time."
mm,
Like we don't have that.
yeah,
So, um, and you know what though? I feel like all the time crunch or the money crunch, whatever, it almost brings us closer as number one a live band. Myself, Danny Murphy, Charlie Salt, and Aidan Peets.
mm,
That's a live, well, the album live band. Um, and there was something about the chemistry of that and not having it much time because we recorded it live to tape as well. We done like 3 takes of tune and that was it. We weren't
right,
going.
mm,
So once we got it, that was that. And I just felt like we all had something. We brought something on the day. Um, and then obviously with James and Chris, James Skelly being my producer, Chris Taylor being my engineer. Um, I liked the way. like I learned something from working that quickly, and it's probably just not to be too precious
Right.
because there's tiny little things that we would probably get hung up on. Like I'm sitting there listening to vocals back all day.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know what one sounds the best now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually feel like I've veered off your original question there.
No, it's fine. You crack on. That's the point of the. That's
Aye,
it's all
there you
good.
go.
It's all good. We're here more for a chat than anything. But yes, working with James Skelly, you're giving me questions here. I've not got any of this stuff written down, so we'll just wing it anyway. James Skelly, such a like a legend of the game at this point. Like, I take it you did it down in Parr Street. What was it like working with James?
Oh, it's class. We actually, well, Parr Street's now gone.
Is
They've
it?
bulldozed it, man, for some student accommodation. I know,
Oh
but it's
no.
fine. They actually built like a brand new studio. I think it's like where was Parr Street? Like that was like central, so maybe a bit like North Liverpool, but
Hmm.
it's a great studio. Obviously, all the facilities. It's not quite got that homely thing that Parr Street had, but at
Yeah.
all time. But James, I mean, working with him, he hates like he's quite like no cold, but like I don't know how to put it. He'd be fuming if he heard me say that, but like he's particular. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like he only has like a set amount of people that he likes to work with, or that he, you know what I mean, and or that he'll take a certain interest in. And I feel like I'm just really grateful he's invested his time in me, first of all,
Mm.
because that is what it is. Like I'm sure we've done stuff, and James has not gotten paid a penny. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
in it they are, and I love that about him. Um, and I learned so much from him with songwriting and just like I said, not being too precious over things or having a bit more confidence in my own abilities and stuff like that. So he's a really, really good mentor. He probably doesn't give himself enough credit for that, but
Mm. Yeah,
I'll
you
say
never hear him talk about these sort of things, do you? Like I hear Tom from Blossoms talk about him a lot. Obviously, he's had such a big like part of their journey as well, and stuff like that, and like giving him songs to listen to and being like, "Get onto that, mate, because you need to do this."
constant.
Like,
I'm reading a book at the minute that is he's sent me two books and I was like, right, I'm got well no sent me two to read. So I picked them up and I was like, right, I'm invested
mm,
because it's a bit like when you're a songwriter probably is a bit different than just like a singer or an artist, but on I can only speak from my experience. I just feel like I need to look elsewhere. It's not just about the music all the time,
yeah.
more other art forms.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely get that. Like, like relating it to my own experience, I get stuck in my own head so much. So, like, when someone says, "Ah, read this, listen to this," it's like, ah, thank God for that.
Yeah.
Well, there is other things going on, like outside of this sort of thing. Um, just touching on the major label thing again. Like I said to you before we started, I don't want to go into it too much because it's probably been covered before and stuff like that. Was it just something that you felt like you needed to do, like going independent again and sort of not taking control back, but sort of, having that ownership back over your own, like, sort of trajectory and path for the future?
think I think going into it, I was really inexperienced and naive, to be honest with you.
Mm,
Um, and I'm glad that I did it because I learned a lot. And I got to work with some amazing producers and songwriters who obviously I wouldn't have gotten the chance to work with. And not that obviously I didn't use any of those songs, but just to be able to sort of be a fly on the wall in these sessions and even that is quite telling because I actually felt like a fly on the wall in my
right.
own songwriting session. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But I suppose like I was going into them and I was just a bit like I'm a musician and a songwriter in my own right, and
Mm,
I was going and not being able to play an instrument in these sessions or whatever. So I did. I still felt like there was a void. Now that being that early on in my career, when do you know what it is? It's like I just know when I don't like something.
mm,
I'm not as great when I do like something, but I definitely know when I don't.
mm.
And one of the times I came back to my management and I was just like, I'm really, really unhappy going to London all the time. Like I'm not
Yeah.
somebody that fits in London. I'm not.
Me and you both. I get that completely.
Do you know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
so vast and fast and whatever. Um, but yeah, they were just like, well, we'll have a meeting with Ireland type thing. So
Mm.
Anyway, I was feeling like I was getting sort of pressured into doing all these songs I didn't really like. And I was still trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do myself.
Mm.
Not being able to figure that out on my own was quite difficult. So anyway, we all had a meeting, and then I was just like, I want to do this, 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 and this, and I want to be seen as this kind of artist.
Mm.
And literally a week after that, my management was like, right, we're all parted ways. That's us. Like we're done with Island.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, right, cool. And to be honest, wow, the freedom. It
I
was
bet.
like even like during that time, like I don't think a lot of people know this, but like me and James Skelly didn't like talk to each other for like months because he was getting like told from Ireland what to do and how to produce me.
Mm.
And then he was sort of thinking that I don't know, there was just a lot of crossed wires. We weren't really talking to each other, not in like a bad way. We just didn't understand what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
We ended up meeting in the studio one day, me, James, and Chris. And James was just like, look, this is what's been happening with Island. I just want you to know this type of thing. I think you're a better artist than this. You're trying to basically throw shit at the wall for other people
Mm.
before you've even got to understand the industry yourself. And yeah, our relationship and connection since that point has been so tight.
Mm.
And the album pretty much wrote itself. The minute I parted ways, my whole mind was just clear.
Yeah.
It was mad. So I'm grateful for the experience, so definitely.
I feel like in your sort of like career trajectory, it's probably something where you've learned so much and come out so much better for it, but it just wasn't like for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you
Yeah.
do come across as like really strong and like you know yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like on the socials and stuff, and when we see you live and stuff, and like I can't imagine anybody sort of telling you you need to do this and you being like, okay. I'll do that. You know, I can't imagine Brooke being quiet about these things. You know what I mean?
Totally. Especially
Yeah.
when it's like I'll like bite my tongue until it really, really matters, you know what
Mm.
I mean? And like I was sort of thinking to myself, this is my whole life from this moment. Like I have picked this route. Why am I the minute I've got into it, I'm like pleasing all these fucking 40-year-old men in suits and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
What do you know about a 21-year-old at the time,
Mm.
21-year-old female going through heartbreak? Like,
Yeah.
just don't know nothing, do you?
Exactly.
So,
No. Exactly. Exactly. We'll move on before we start calling people out even more. I mean, we can if you want. No, I'm joking.
I
Right.
mean, just to touch on that, fucking hell, I was at the Rolling Stone Awards, quite wine drunk,
Yeah.
and I was like gesturing some hand gestures to somebody I definitely shouldn't have been.
I was
And
gonna ask you about the Rolling Stone Awards because I've seen you. I saw the stories, and you look like you had a brilliant time, mate. Like,
I've seen obviously my brother's blossoms were there. To be honest, it's one of those things. Like I told you, I don't fit in London, right?
mm,
So me and my guitarist stroke boyfriend went to the awards, and I was saying to him like, oh my God, I just don't want to be here. Not in like an ungrateful way. I'm
mm,
just so now that I do this job, I'm really, really like unsocial. I don't really go out anymore and stuff
mm.
like that. So we've shown up on the red carpet, and I'm just like, oh my God, there's Nile Rodgers from Chic, there's Jade from Little Mix, the fucking Dalkey. You know what I mean? But anyway, I had seen Blossoms, and I was just like,
Yeah.
you know what I
They're
mean?
such a calming influence. They come across as like you should just chill in any setting with them boys. Like,
Unless you're with Joe, and Joe's just like,
yeah, I've also got ADHD, so I feel like if me and Joe ever met, that would be just lethal. Like, roofs would be falling off
fun
all
night
over the
though,
gaff.
wouldn't it?
That would be a good night, yeah. Talking about Blossoms, obviously you've collaborated with Charlie so much. Obviously, he's like played a lot of stuff for you in the studio and that. What's that like?
Oh, I love Charlie Bits, to be honest. And this is something I love with this industry. I was speaking to my mum about this, and I love coming home, but I just feel so disconnected
Mm,
from like who I was back home now. Like my friends just don't really understand the job. They don't really understand the depths of music and the industry. And like, I just don't really have anybody to talk to about that kind of stuff when I come home, which is
Mm.
fine.
Yeah.
Like, it makes going down to Liverpool and seeing my family, my musical family, that much better. And Charlie's a massive part of that, to be
Mm.
honest. Like, I have so much respect for him. I genuinely think he's one of the most freakiest, amazing bass players. For being so young, he
Yeah.
plays like somebody, do you know what I mean, in their 50s or 60s that's been playing their whole life. Um, and the fact that he keeps coming back and he keeps wanting to be part of it is just really, really nice for me, I suppose.
Yeah, it's amazing. You seem like you have such a nice like support network around you with like the music stuff. Like you say, they are like your musical family, so it's really cool. It's really
Mm.
cool to hear that about Charlie as well. Talking of collaborations, recently you had the pleasure of doing a little collab with the boys in Cortinas on Sweet Surrender. How did that conversation come about, and how what was it like working with Liam and the boys?
Well, I went in, it was just Liam. I
Mm,
think they'd done all the tune by that point.
right.
Well, I literally just got a text from again James Skelly that like one morning he was like, "Are you free right now?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Could you come to the studio? Liam's here. He wants you to do some BVs." I was like, "Aye." So,
Mm.
so I rocked up, listened to the tune a couple of times, went in, got them done, and then I was back out for lunchtime. It was, uh, but even that, like Liam, from the start, Cortinas, like I've supported them so many times, and
Mm.
like they've just again, I feel like just all my big bros looking out for me. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like give Brooke that slot or whatever. Like
Mm.
they keep me ticking over, and I really, really have time for them as well. They're so sound.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice to hear. To be fair, I remembered I did a TikTok, right? So I've got to say sorry to Liam, right? And you saw the TikTok because you liked it, right? And I was like, in the TikTok, I'm like, should have given her a verse, mate. Look what you're doing,
Oh
some
no,
BVs, you having a laugh. I'm like, oh no. And then I got told I was going to talk to you the other day, and I was like, oh great, it's like brilliant. Oh
it's
dear.
mad because I wasn't aware of like what any of the rest of the album was like.
Right.
So obviously when it then came out, there is like other female collabs, isn't there?
Yeah, Pixie, I think's one of them. I can't. There's another one, but I can't remember.
Definitely one more, but I can't
Mm.
remember it either. But now I'm like, right, Leon, and out album, you know my number, mate.
You're a whole tune next time. I tell you, God. Don't worry, I'll DM him. Right. I do. I had this thing just quickly, right? I DM'd him like every day in lockdown until he responded, right? And he just responded. It was something really random. Like I can't. It was about Phil Jones, I think, which is like mental. I was just like, right,
Fair.
there we go. We're now best friends. Right. Anyway, back to you. Back to you. Let's talk about the latest single that came out last week. This Town. Good story behind this one from all accounts. So if you want to delve into it, please do.
So basically, before we even get to what the song's about, when we were when I was writing the album, we were going in the studio in a week, right? And we needed three more songs for the album. So me and Danny are like stressing out in the house, like, what are we gonna do? Like, we need to write something. He started like he was just working on like other demos that we'd done, trying to pull shit together basically. I was like, whenever he's on the computer, I'm just bored. So I was like, I'm going downstairs,
Mm.
whatever. So I went back through my WhatsApp and James had sent me some chords. And then I was like, I don't really like them, but I like something in them.
Mm.
So I started to just mess around with them. And then literally that song just wrote itself within 15 minutes, which was mental. Sent it to the management, sent it to obviously James and Chris. Everybody was happy, which was class. And yeah, I think it came so fast because I knew I wanted a song about sort of what it's like where I'm from.
Mm.
I'm from a small town. I mean, where I live, it is just loads of small towns. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
loads of
yeah.
roads connecting them. So I was like, it took me back when I was thinking about that. It took me back to lockdown, and that was when I was diagnosed with depression in 2020. And I was like, interesting. Like that was just a really miserable time for anybody and
Mm,
everybody anyway. Um, but I was like, well, why? Like, what happened to make me feel that way, basically, at that time? And I went through a breakup, and it's one of those things where you live in such a small town, you always see that person, or you see their mates, do you know what I mean? And I was
mm,
just like, oh my God, get me out of here. It was a fishbowl.
mm.
Then you start to see like maybe like a what's the word? An acquaintance of yours and theirs are like
Yeah,
now that person. And I'm just like, no, I just don't want to know any of this.
yeah, yeah.
So I text my girls group chat and I was like, when you think of Dalkeith, like what does it make you think of? And one of my mates went Spice Boys. Then the next mate was like this, and the next mate I was like perfect. And I it just wrote itself. But yeah, it's just small town vibes, fishbowl. I'm proud of where I'm from, don't get me wrong.
Mm,
But I definitely have outgrown the place.
yeah,
I strive for more and I know that there's more out there and
yeah,
you know what I mean anybody that sort of takes any sort of offense to the tune is quite ironic. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean?
It's
Because
probably who it's about.
they're like live and die fucking Dalkeith and I'm like, there's no anything happening here at all.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. Like, I'm from a small town myself, in like the East Coast, like a little town called Lower Stuff, like in between Norwich and Ipswich, and
Okay.
everybody is like exactly the same, small-minded and stuff. And like me and my girlfriend often have the chat that like we've really outgrown this. Like we need to move. Like we've got mates in Manchester now, and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot going on. Especially with me wanting to do, oh bloody hell, hit myself in the face. Especially with me wanting to do music, is that like there's just nothing happening here. Like,
That's it.
yeah, I totally get that. Like, I need to get out of here, sort of thing. So I relate to the tune
I
massively
might
as
have
well.
even felt a little bit different if I was from Glasgow, maybe.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Obviously, as well, that there's a lot more musical history. Whereas, like, I get asked all the time, what's the music scene like in Edinburgh? And I'm like, what music scene?
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing. So, yeah, it is. And I hope there is more people that actually read into the song like yourself and
mm.
they do feel the same or they can relate because I'd like for people to like listen to it and be like, that's a good point to be fair. There isn't much happening and like go and fucking go to Spain or go to Thailand or go to
Yeah,
Australia. Anything other than stay in that small town.
yeah,
You can always come back as well. Do you know what I
mm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing, innit? I think, yeah, definitely encourage anybody to go out and like live, just live. Do you know what I mean? Like, just live a bit, like
My
travel,
mates are
do what you got to do.
babies. I'm like, I'm 25, right? And I'm like, I get it. We're getting to the tail end of the 20s now. I get it. But I'm like, I'm no prepared to be having kids and got hundreds of shit to do.
I'm 27 and I am nowhere near that. Like, yeah, I'd get that. Like, what
Suddenly
am I, mate?
30 feels so young.
Yeah. Your life starts at 30, I heard. So that's what I keep telling
Totally,
myself.
right?
Do you know what I mean? Like, um, that's hilarious. Gonna go on to my last question now, end with a little bit of a silly one. Three people, anybody, dead or alive, you could have at a house party, proper mad one. Doesn't have to be like three absolute cessheads. Like you could be like in the kitchen having a little slight chat. Do you know what I mean? Who would it be and why? It doesn't have to be music related as well. Could be anyone.
See, that almost makes things way harder to even think. That's just anybody then. Eh, Somebody came into my mind there. I'd like to be at a house party with like one of the like the old school sort of what's the like Bootsy Collins or Rick James or like Prince or
Mm,
something like or Nile Rodgers, like somebody like that, proper
yeah.
just be messy, however. Then I'd like Gordon Ramsay to be there, right,
Yeah.
for the Strand. But like I probably wouldn't talk to him, do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you'd want him to be quiet, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? Gordon, mate, just cook, pal. I don't care if the burger's shit. Do you know what I
If they
mean?
asked you to come to be their mate, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Just do your thing.
Yeah.
So that for the Strand would be lovely. And then one more. I'd love to meet Paul McCartney. So
Oh,
that's
put Macca, my God. How is that man still doing his thing? Like,
absolutely mental.
If like,
The
could you
more I
imagine being his age doing what he does every night?
not, is he like what in his 80s?
82 now, I think. I
And I seen him
think.
like Glasgow, what, 2, 3 years ago,
Literally, like,
walking
bossing
out.
it
I was
as
like,
well. You're like,
I'm doing my thought. But
oh,
he's a legend, absolute legend. The stories and the shit he's done. Like I always remember that story of the Beatles going somewhere down south in America
mm,
doing the gig, and then they were like, "Wait, the crowd's segregated. Right, we're not doing it then."
mm.
And like to do something like that in that time is just boss. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're like, I mean, it's not, we're not saying anything that no one said before, but they are. So when I think of music, they started music for me.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like obviously there was loads of stuff before which was great, but I feel like when the Beatles did their thing, it was like, right, music's a thing now. Like
all
this
that
is,
guitar music suddenly
yeah,
was in the UK. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
What I love about it as well is they were listening to all the fucking old records, cut rock and roll and soul records
yeah,
from America.
mm,
I'm just like, that's why I like yous
yeah,
so much.
yeah,
Just
definitely.
fun.
Definitely. Well, Brooke, thank you so much for coming on the pod. You've been an absolute legend, an absolute pleasure to talk to. Everybody, make sure to pre-order the album. It's out January 31st. Get yourself down to a gig. I'll probably be at the Norwich gig, I imagine. If not, I'll be at the Manchester gig. I'll be somewhere. I will be
Oh,
at this tour.
are we head? Am I doing a headline gig in Norwich?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that mental, so please go to that one
Yeah.
because I don't will be going. You know
I'll
what I
bring my
mean?
mates, don't worry.
Tell all your mates, tell everyone.
Oh
Oh.
dear. Brooke, thank you so much for joining us. I've been Ryan from Rockstars. Thank you all for listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. We'll see you in the next one.